Listening to everyone talk about the situation with the fiscal cliff today, I decided to record this short message for you as This Week in Washington for Sunday, December the 30th, 2012. It appears, at least at 3:30 this afternoon, that a possible deal on the budget and tax situation is not going to be possible, and that our country will be going over the fiscal cliff sometime in the next 24 hours. It would appear that based upon the inability to resolve the differences on tax rates, revenue, and spending, automatic spending cuts will click in on January 1st. At the same time, significant increases in taxes for all the American people will also occur. On Friday evening, I attended a White House briefing on the administration's proposals going into the fiscal cliff, which they outlined their short-term goals, which were to prevent the increase in taxes for the middle class, and a longer-term strategy of fixing all of the other issues that were on the table. It does appear now that all of the issues will have to wait until the new Congress convenes early in January. What this means for us is, besides the increases in all of our taxes, it means that certain federal programs will receive significant reductions in funding immediately. In the case of transportation, it's yet to be determined the full impact of these reductions because, as you know, some of our programs are financed through the trust fund and some are financed through general appropriations. It is the feeling of many of those at the meeting Friday that trust-funded programs in various trust funds accounts around the government will not be affected immediately by this act. But it will be hard to assume that nothing extraordinary will happen when in fact the people who are administering these programs might in fact be reduced in size, or the number of people handling various government operations might be temporarily furloughed by the inability to pay for people out of other accounts. No one seems quite sure about how this is actually going to turn out. At least they didn't Friday, and there doesn't appear to be much new news on that aspect on this Sunday afternoon. What is expected is that the President and the Congress will have new legislation in January that proposes to reduce taxes significantly because the Bush tax cuts will have come to an end, and it is hoped that this momentum would increase the likelihood that Republicans in the House of Representatives could vote for a package to clean up the dislocation created by what will come out of this so-called fiscal cliff. I think for those of us who are concerned about not just this issue, but our issues on the long term, all of this means that we're going to continue to see the divisive political climate that we've experienced for the last 2 years being continued. Despite the outcome of the election, it does appear that the sides remain very far apart on this and many other issues. For us and our concerns about transportation, for human services programs, for programs in the healthcare field where transportation is an important item, all of this promises a difficult road ahead. As a matter of fact, I would say that we could be repeating many of the difficulties that we've had over the last several years, and somewhat made more difficult unless we resolve these broader implications on the financing side of the federal budget. Outside of the fiscal cliff, it's important to remember that the deficit needs to be paid for by expanded federal borrowing. And as you know, the deficit limit, which caused this crisis, is still unresolved, and it could be that a second series of events will have to take care of resolving that issue as well. So if we were to do any serious prognostication about what it's going to be like in the next 3 or 4 months, unless things change dramatically, it will be a very difficult disorganized period of stop and go affecting all aspects of government activity, whether they're in the trust fund or not. There are those also who believe that this uncertainty in Washington will create great difficulties for the states and create great difficulties in the economy. We don't really know that yet, but it would assume that we would see many of the same implications we had before, where these situations created a great deal of apprehension, especially in the economic markets. So I regret that there is very little good news to inform anyone on that front. In the last several weeks, I've been increasingly attentive to the situation concerning the healthcare changes that are coming online. I have some very optimistic reports and outputs of some of the situations concerning healthcare in some of the states that are moving toward the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. It does appear they are offering and designing a much more robust program for transportation. In the states that are not considering it, again, we have been assured that states that enter the program now and states that enter it later will still have the benefits of the expanded transportation options that we included in the original bill. It's hard to know how this will turn out too, since the situation with the overall federal budget and the deficit will undoubtedly affect these situations as well. So in less than a day, we'll be into 2013. And all I can say is that 2013 at this stage offers an appearance of being as difficult as 2012 and 2011. It will require a great deal of patience and a great deal of flexibility on the part of all of us and our members to make it through this very difficult time. Nothing is more certain than the impact of these stop and go financial decisions on the way public and community transportation operates in local communities. Again, even though there have been economic signs of recovery, all of that can certainly be affected by these events. So it will be a time for us to be vigilant, to try to continue to make the case that these disruptions and these changes are very difficult for people who operate community and public transportation, and how it will eventually affect those we serve based on the larger implications of the debate that's going on. I wish, as we entered the end of the year, that there was something more positive about this, based on either the outcome of the election or the fact that maybe, since the economy had begun to recover, people would be less bitter or less partisan. None of that seems to be true. Regretfully, it appears that it will be more of the same. What you can expect from us is that we will attempt to do all we can to remind those in power that their decisions affect all of us and they affect the way our people do their jobs every day around the country. Having said that, I want to close, though, by wishing all of you a Happy New Year and our hopes that even in these difficult times, change is still possible, and that change is our only hope for avoiding these kind of issues and uncertainty in the future. Whether or not the fiscal cliff gets resolved, we're still going to have to work to expand transportation in the most unusual political environment, and we're still going to have to work on trying to make sure that transportation benefits and healthcare are enacted even under these difficult times. So we have our work cut out for us. We have a long road ahead, and I look forward to working with all of you in trying to resolve these issues in the best interest of all those that we represent and all those that are served by those we represent. Thanks, and again, Happy New Year.